So this is game number 1 of a best of 5. Heavy Rain is going to be the first map of this series, and is between a Terran and a Zerg. Spawning in the top left as the yellow Terran player, none other than Nox. And his opponent down to the bottom right, representing Vega Squadron, JonnyREcco. So, this should be an awesome TVZ, really looking forward to it. For those of you just joining us now, let me give you a rundown of how these two got here. Nox took down Webby in the semi-final, Deranging in the quarterfinals, and and Dazinski in the first round. JonnyREcco, on the other hand, he faced off against Magico in the first round, Mystic in the second round, and Boombox in the semi-final. JonnyREcco did not drop a single map today. Nox, on the other hand, did drop 2 maps, one in the semi-final and one in the quarterfinals. So JonnyREcco, based on those stats, should hypothetically be the favourite. However, we saw Nox do an amazing job up against Deranging in the quarterfinals with some very harassment heavy play, and I'm really excited to see if he goes for that same style, and if he does, how JonnyREcco deals with that and really how it all plays out. Rico opening pretty standard at the moment, going for a hatchery first. Should follow up with either a gas into a 16 pool, or maybe just a 16 pool into a gas. Both are viable. The pool gets your lings and your queens out slightly earlier, whereas the gas means you get speed, which is especially useful to stopping Reaper based play. And Reaper based play is precisely what we're getting out of Nox. One Reaper already on its way out. Of course, Heavy Rain has a huge amount of cliff area that's very easy to utilize with Reapers to be very aggressive and harassment heavy. Nox has shown a preference to go up to 3 Reapers, did that twice in his TVZ against Deranging earlier on tonight, and it was a very effective style. Currently has the second Reaper already queued up, so we'll wait to see if and when a third makes an appearance. Natural base coming down for Nox once he hits the 400 minerals required. He's also got a decent amount of gas banked up. If it is 3 Reapers, the follow-up, if he plays the same as he did against Deranging, will be 6 Hellions and 2 Banshee, potentially with Cloak. First Reaper now coming up into the main of Rico. 4 Lings already made themselves known, chipping away at it. 2 Queens on their way through, as well as a 5th and 6th Zergling in production. 1 Ling already goes down, nice control there by the Reaper. Second one on its way across, but no third. Instead, quick switch around, ready for the Hellion production to start, and the first reactor is on its way. No sign of a second gas, so potentially not going to be going into that very greedy or very harassment heavy Banshee style. Still good control here by Nox. Pulls back that second Reaper, keeping it nice and safe. JonnyREcco though being very aggressive with this Queen, staying very far forward, preventing the Reapers from getting too close. The Overlord should stop around here generally, just to keep a good little eye on the cliff, to make sure these Reapers don't do too much else. But Rico seems pretty confident that he's able to stop them, so continues forward with the Overlords now. Switch comes down. Tech Lab is on its way for this barracks, but unfortunately some SCVs block the path. A little bit frustrating there. It adds a little delay that isn't required. No Hellions being produced as of yet. Not quite sure where Nox is. There we go. Is now going in there. His camera is obviously off there as he gets a third started very early on. Not too much else to discuss over on the Terran side, but for the Zerg player, we see that speed has now kicked in. He's got a decent number of Lings making their way across the map, ready to start harassing. Only 2 Hellions down at the moment. There's 9 Lings, and they've got a decent chance they get a wraparound to be quite frustrating. Do pick off this SCV, slowing the production of that third CC. That's always annoying, losing that SCV. It adds another small little bump, and at this level of play, every small kind of delay in what you're trying to achieve can actually play out as making a big difference throughout the game. 4 Hellions now here. The 5th and 6th one are in production. Stim coming down as well, plus the 2nd gas from Nox. JonnyREcco is getting down his 3rd hatchery though. Is still sitting on the 1 gas, although a 2nd is on its way through. No evolution chambers, so a bit delayed in terms of his upgrades. But does have a decent number of lings positioned off to the right of the 3rd here, ready to come in and harass again. Starport, not yet in production, even though the factory is done. But a lot of Hellions and those 2 Reapers now harassing at the 3rd hatchery. The Queen count up at 5. Going to be trying to force some of this back. No energy for transfuses as of yet, but lings preparing to go in from behind to try and catch some of this off guard. The Reapers doing their job, tanking up a good chunk of the damage, meaning they heal up nice and fast. The lings still ready and waiting, but there's not really enough Zerglings here to put an end to this group of Hellions, especially if they're on attack move as opposed to just move command. Nicely done here by Nox. Hasn't really lost anything, just 1 SCV that was building that 3rd CC. And so, neither player taking a massive lead or falling far behind as of yet. Starport now coming down. Stim is finished, combat shield is on its way. This scouting overlord is going to go down, but REcco does have enough still on the field to not get supply blocked. Baling Nest, Lair, 1-1 upgrades all coming through too. So both of these 2 players really on top of their game, keeping things nicely balanced and generally making sure that nothing untoward would happen early on. So this means that we're pretty comfortably cruising on through to the mid game. Nothing crazy happened, and that means that in the mid game we should see 2 players who are feeling relatively positive that they were able to achieve their early game goals, and as such we'll see some interesting dynamics start occurring between their 2 armies and their 2 compositions to try and get the better trades. And then a lot of that's going to come actually from the Baling detonations and how well their splits on the Marines, how well they're focused, whether the Widow Mines, if they come out, will get effective connections, and also from REcco, if he can get some nice flanks down, if he can get those good Baling hits. And once the Spire is done, if the Mutalisks can play an important role in their harassment. But first, with the 2 medevacs, the obligatory 2 medevac push gonna be coming down from Nox. He clears out some of these creep tumors, but already we see that REcco has taken down the rock tower and therefore going to be able to slow the advance of the Hellions. The medevac still moving on up, but a Spore Crawler positioned to the high ground is going to stop those medevacs from moving on through. Couple of lings also waiting to go for further aggression, ready to try and move in towards the 3rd where there isn't actually anything to defend. REcco's lings chasing down these Hellions now. They've got 1-1, so trade pretty nicely up against this. The medevacs as well, getting very low. 1 goes down and that's nearly full of units, so that's a big snipe for REcco there. Great control. His creep spread also going solid. Sees the retreat coming through. Surprised he hasn't utilised these lings, because with nothing defending in the 3rd, they could pick off a good couple of SCVs. These queens seem to have gone a fair way out, just trying to chase stuff down. The first Mutalisk's going to be hitting the field shortly, 6 of them in production. No workers lost so far by JonnyREcco, which is incredibly impressive considering how much harassment's been trying to come down from Nox. We've got spines and spores positioned nicely. And while there is still the medevac threat, the creep spread is alerting REcco very early on to where these Terran movements are coming from and when they're coming, so he can respond appropriately. Quick boost over to the natural base, but with medevacs now here, Mutalisks here, the medevacs get taken down. And that's never too comfortable for a Terran player to start losing medevacs early on. And losing those medevacs causes a problem, predominantly because you want to be getting a decent number out so that you can stim the infantry repeatedly and not worry about it getting worn down. If the medevac count starts getting low, then you can't actually heal up your infantry if you need to do big stims on a lot of units. 13 Balings morphing through now, joining the 16 that are already here, so REcco taking a very heavy Baling composition. to counteract the heavy Marine count of his opponent, especially when the Widow Mine numbers are pretty low already. There's only 5 of them on the field, and as a result, these Banelings and Zerglings don't really have too much to be concerned about. Team Liquid Snoot is actually a big advocate of this heavy Baneling composition, as we've seen in WCS so far. So REcco is keeping up upgrades. Both players going to get 2-2 at pretty similar timings. But REcco has, so far this game, been the defender. Been making sure that he doesn't get taken out. Again, going to have to be trying to achieve that. Does have a decent number of Lings going for a counter-attack though, as well as a good number coming in from the side. They've got 2-2 and they're flooding through, but the Banelings have not caught up yet. The first few mines have already detonated, but in comes some Banelings with a massive detonation. There's so many. Wow, that is a lot of Marines getting taken down there. That is a great trade for REcco. The Marine count now down to 27. There is a Thor on the field to help combat the 15 Mutalisks. But all in all, that was a great shutdown by REcco, who's now got a 5th base up and running, up against the 3 bases of the Terran player. Worker count is 82 compared to the 59 SCVs, and there's a decent number of Lings guarding the 3rd to make, the 4th base location to make sure that that isn't taken soon. Another avenue of attack being explored by Nox at the moment, coming from the north of this 4th, but with 4 spines and a decent number of units there, doesn't look to be too promising. Mutas coming through, they're going to fly straight over a lot of Marines and that Thor, so a couple could go down. Having to back on out, they need to be controlled a bit better than they currently are, as a few die. Bit unfortunate with the pathing there of those Mutalisks. Backing out though, still 18 on the field, a decent number of Banelings. A medevac coming now towards the 5th base, where there is a spine crawler in production, but it's the push through the middle that should be more concerning to REcco. However, he's got a good number of Banelings now rolling in towards the natural and main. They detonate straight up against some stuff there. The SCVs get absolutely annihilated. Some huge hits going down there. The entire army of Nox being pulled back to try and contend with this, but that was a massive, massive hit. 32 SCVs killed. The Mutalisks coming through as well now, preparing to finish off what the Banelings started. And this puts Nox in a bit of an awkward spot. We're approaching the 18-minute mark, but there's just so many Banelings, and the Widow Mine count just really isn't up to scratch to contend with them. The Mutalisks also now coming through. They're picking off reinforcing Marines as they trickle on by. Marines in small numbers just can't contend with a large group of Mutalisks like that. The Orbit Command getting focused, but it's a big engagement outside the 5th of REcco, where a lot of the action's coming through. The Thor gets surrounded by those Zerglings, taken down efficiently. The Banelings got some nice detonations, and there's still so many more. 20 more Banelings rather on the field. And the retreating medevacs getting slaughtered by the Mutalisks. REcco, playing it very aggressive now, knows that he's got a substantial lead and is looking to capitalize upon it. Pushing on through, SCV's getting pulled to fight, and JonnyREcco is in a splendid position. The Banelings coming from the side, just crashing through any infantry there. GG, well played, and REcco takes game number 1 of this best of 3. Best of 5.